The businessman turned BBC boss, who today says he did nothing wrong, just put two people in contact. But one was the Prime Minister in need of an £800,000 loan, and the other was a wealthy man of means, reportedly happy to guarantee that loan. All of this was taking place as Richard Sharp was putting his name forward for the job of BBC chairman. He was ultimately named the preferred candidate of Boris Johnson. For 48 hours there have been questions of whether this appointment was fair.
Before I started at the BBC, people did tell me that they sort of specialise in circular firing squads.
Today he gave an exclusive interview to the BBC.
The chairman of the BBC says
he is confident he's done nothing wrong.
Richard Sharp has been speaking to our culture editor, Katie Razzle.
Having had a discussion with the Cabinet Secretary about avoiding a conflict and the perception of conflict, I felt comfortable, and I still feel there was no conflict.
Do you think you misled the Select Committee and the advisory panel?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because I had clarified and agreed with the Cabinet Secretary, both of us had the judgment that I'd avoided a conflict or a perception of conflict.
William Shawcross is now examining your appointment.
Yes.
Shouldn't you resign or at least step aside while the review is in process?
I'm confident that he will determine that I was appointed on merit.
The BBC said Mr. Sharp was not refusing to do other interviews today. However, he will not be doing any further interviews today. Questions, though, do remain, such as what was discussed at multiple meetings with the Prime Minister in Downing Street. Mr. Sharp visited Boris Johnson 6 times in Downing Street during his 3 years as Prime Minister. 3 meetings, unsurprisingly, were regarding matters to do with the BBC. But the other 3 are listed as, quote, social meetings. Only 2 other men enjoyed multiple social meetings at Downing Street with Mr. Johnson: the billionaire proprietor of News Corp, Rupert Murdoch, and the billionaire proprietor of the Evening Standard, Lord Lebedev. Today, neither Boris Johnson nor Mr. Sharp provided a response about these meetings. Questions of process and impropriety are mounting up on the Conservative Party front steps right now. Party chair Nadhim Zahawi leaving their headquarters yesterday.
Your tax affairs a distraction for the party, Mr. Zahawi?
The same questions followed him this morning.
Do you feel under pressure to resign, sir?
Mr. Zahawi has confirmed that last summer, while he was the Chancellor in charge of setting taxes, he made a payment to settle a dispute with HM Revenue and Customs. The payment is believed to be close to £5 million, including a penalty. The error, which Mr. Zahawi claims was careless and not deliberate, is now being investigated by the Prime Minister's ethics advisor.
Nadhim Zahawi has said he's going to cooperate with this, fully cooperate with this investigation, so the full facts will be uncovered and the Prime Minister can act appropriately.
The tax bill Mr. Zahawi settled is believed to relate to his connection with Balshore Investments, a company registered offshore and controlled by his parents. But Mr. Zahawi has never declared a connection to Balshore previously. Channel 4 News checked every single one of Nadhim Zahawi's entries of the MP's Register of Interest since he joined Parliament in 2010. At no point in any of these entries is Balshore Investments named. Are you a bit surprised, given what we now know, that there isn't a single mention of Balshore Investments in these interests?
I think now that we know there's a connection, now that we know that this wasn't a completely independent company from him and it had a connection to his father, you would have expected some reference, I think. The general rule is, when in doubt, disclose. And I think we now know that there was some sort of connection that ought to be recognised.
But isn't there a case, as Mr. Zahawi makes, that, look, it's my family's company, it's not up to me what they do with it?
Well, I think HMRC have, in a sense, challenged that, because they've said actually the allocation of the benefits from the sale must in part relate to you. And if they were sold through the company, that means he must have a relationship with the company in some way, it seems to me.
Mr. Zahawi made no statement today, but has said he's confident he acted properly and looks forward to explaining the facts.